Hello.
Hey, how are you going?
Good. How are you doing?
Really well, thank you.
Oh,
how about yourself?
Yeah, good, thanks. Hi to everyone watching, and sorry that we're starting a tiny bit late. We've had some trouble with the videos, so I'm sure Lyds will explain, but we might not have any video content in the presentation today. This is Lyds, or Lydia Green. She is the Manta Watch New Zealand project founder. So she explores the elusive manta rays of New Zealand waters, and she's going to tell us a bit more about that today. As for technical information, this webinar is going to last for about 40 or 45 minutes. We'll have a presentation from Lyds, and then we'll take questions. So if you have any questions or comments at any time, you can put them in the Q&A box on the Zoom toolbar. You are automatically muted and your video is switched off as audience members. So this is the best way to interact with us and ask Lyds questions. And we'll try and get through as many of these as possible at the end of the webinar. Okay, I'll pass you over to Lyds.
Cool. Okay, guys. Well, first off, just wanted to say a massive thank you for tuning in to the webinar. It's a little bit of an awkward time, either a little bit early in the UK or maybe a little bit, I know it's kind of near my bedtime in New Zealand. And yeah, as Floss was saying, we've had a few little technical hiccups with the video content, so we'll try and show like a few of the smaller videos, and I will try my best to explain the videos that aren't working. So I'll just try and get my presentation up and then we'll go from there. Right, Floss, is that good?
It's just loading. Yeah, that looks good.
Awesome. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, guys. So yeah, welcome. So as Floss was saying, I'm the founder of Manta Watch New Zealand, and we're one of the newest affiliate projects associated with the Manta Trust, and we were established in 2017. And we're all about the big guys, so oceanic manta rays. There's a really cool bit of footage just here. This is a guy taking a bit of a drone shot from a jet ski, and it just gives you the scale of what we're dealing with. We have some really cool project partners as well: Conservation International, Manta Trust, and New Zealand's Department of Conservation. Let's get going. Okay, so we have got a few people watching from New Zealand, so I just wanted to put a bit of context around where manta rays fit in the whole New Zealand theme. Our project, as I say, we've been going for a couple of years now, and we're getting a nice bit of traction, but there's still a little bit of confusion about what manta rays look like compared to their distant relatives. So first off, we have 5 species of ray in New Zealand. 2 species of stingray, so that's on your top corner there. We have eagle ray at the bottom, and then on the right hand side we have our mobulas, so devil rays at the top, and we have our oceanic at the bottom. So these guys, they're what we call elasmobranchs, so basically flat sharks. So they've been squished and then pulled out. So they have modified side fins or pectoral fins, and these are a lot like wings, so that's how you see them beautifully swimming in the water. They also have cartilaginous skeletons, so it makes them really flexible and quite light compared to a lot of other bony fish. Key differences though, like so with your IDs, it's all about where are they and what are they doing. So our 2 on the left, they're what we call demersal. So they have a really large association with the seabed. By all means, they can swim up into the water column, but most of the time they like to chill out on the bottom. And so these are the ones that we find close to shore, on shallow reefs, so when we go snorkeling, beaches and estuaries. Contrast, mobulas, they like to be deep. Okay, so they're deep water, offshore, nice open ocean. Also, like so with the demersal species, they're really happy to chill on the sand because that's where their food is. So their mouths are actually underneath their head, and they've got quite strong, powerful jaws. Devil rays and manta rays have their mouths right in front, and they actively filter through the water column. So no jaw motion there. Another thing to kind of think about as well is they do generally all get to quite a big size. I've come face to face with a really big stingray swimming quite recently, which is real cool. It's like a big spaceship. But manta rays can get up to 7 meters, so it's just pretty big. Alrighties. So just going to give you a little bit of manta ray basics as well for those that may have not seen any of the webinars and you might be tuning in for the first time. So mantas are super cool. One of the things that moves them apart from other species is they've got the largest brain of any fish. So they're crazy intelligent. We have 2 species of manta ray, OCEANIC, so those are ones in New Zealand, and we have reef mantas as well. Each one has a unique spot pattern on their bellies. So you can see in the middle photo there, we're just giving a nice circle around the spot pattern. And this enables us to identify individuals so we can catalogue them over time. They're case selective as well. So this means that they're like us, so they put a lot of effort into rearing their young. So they're slow growing, slow to mature. And they only have 1 pup, maybe 3 to 5 years or more. We're not too sure. And this is one of the reasons why they're classified as vulnerable. One of the big impacts being fisheries, both targeted and non-targeted. A couple of other little things to note. So you can see with the pictures, we've got them labeled. So the eyes are on the side. You can see that big mouth in front. And they've got these really cool fins on the face, called cephalics, and face fins, and these actually help funnel their food in. But if you spend some time with them in the water, they have a real tactile quality with those fins as well. And so I'm pretty sure it has kind of more of a social function too. There's lots of cool research going on about that at the moment. So yeah, gill slits, nice belly spot there, and then on our right, how we tell the difference between boys and girls. Ladies have the anal fins, and then the boys have little claspers like this. If the boys are a little bit immature, the claspers are a bit smaller. If they're up for it, then they're a lot bigger. Okay, so manta rays in New Zealand. So I really love this photo because it kind of just really, without a doubt, shows you how big these animals are in relation to humans. So this is Debbie. We found her, well, Rowan actually found her in 2019. And I was going to show you like an awesome video of their encounter, but you might just have to kind of just chill and look at this for a moment. So bringing manta rays into a New Zealand context, the first recorded sighting was in 1968. So not that long ago, really. And as I say, they are massive. So we can get them up to 7 meters across. But they kind of average 4.5 to 5.5 meters, which is crazy big. The other thing is that the 2 species of manta ray were actually classified as different species just only in 2009. And so most of the work that we've done up until that date has been on reef mantas. So they're the species that we find in the tropics, and they're relatively user-friendly in terms of feeding aggregations. They're quite predictable in their movements, and we do generally come into more contact with them. These guys, they're very much non-user-friendly in the fact that, they like to be, a good few nautical miles offshore. They're very elusive. We have a few areas now that we know have some aggregation spots, but generally there's more questions than answers, really. And I've just put a little map of New Zealand on the bottom because not everybody knows where it is. We had this funny thing a little while ago where there was just loads of maps of the world with New Zealand missing or put in a different place. So I just wanted to make it front and center so you all know where it is. Okay, this is a video. Manta Watch New Zealand, what are we wanting to find out? So basically, we want to find out where mantas like to hang out. So what habitats they prefer. When they're hanging out, what are they getting up to? So what behaviours? How many do we have in New Zealand? So population size. And are they travelling through, or are they locals? Are they here all the time? And so we can action that by, so what we've done so far is we've created a verified sightings and identification database. Putting all the information together helps us identify critical habitats and hotspots and check out what behaviours they're doing in those areas. We want to get a greater understanding of how environmental factors are affecting manta sightings as well. There's some really cool projects happening now and hopefully in the future with satellite tagging. This is a really good way of just getting a heap of information super quick. So exactly where they go, exactly what they're doing in the water column. Also might give us a little bit of a clue of aggregation areas. And then all of that kind of ties in with promoting awareness, education, and advocacy. Okay, so where do we get our sightings from? So we get a mixture from, we have some other people doing research, past and present, so there's quite a bit of data that was just lying around not being used as such. There's lots of other people that are out there collecting other bits of data, so we do a lot of collaborative research with different people studying different things, but they're all out in the offshore environment that we're all hoping to learn from. And we've had a couple of past publications as well. These days, social media is a really powerful tool to get sightings. It's very hard, like people just kind of go everywhere with, they've always got some sort of recording device on them now, and we can share knowledge and images like never before, so that's helped heaps. And if they don't know where to share it, they normally like sharing it with other people. So Google searches have brought up a heap of other sightings that we didn't even know about. And then that all ties into the big one for us, which is citizen science. So a list of our stakeholders, so where we're getting this really amazing information from, spear fishermen, recreation, game fishers, dive groups, ecotourism operators, underwater photographers, and the general public as well. And we've had like a really awesome reception. One of the brilliant things with manta rays is that, you know, they're just so mesmerizing or inspiring. People see them, it changes them, and they want to learn more. And so the project is very much has a real key like public focus. Everything that we learn, we want to give it back to the people that are helping us with that information, and so we can all collectively learn, basically. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that just a massive thanks to everybody that has contributed to the project so far. I've credited everybody, but yeah, like pretty much over 90% of our sightings are through citizen science. New Zealand, we have like a massive search area. I'm going to show you some maps fairly shortly so you'll get the context. But it is kind of needle in a haystack kind of stuff, and you have to be in the right place at the right time. So it's pretty impossible for just one person to do that. But when we have hundreds of different eyes on the water, we can get some really cool results. So one of the really big things that we're trying to promote is the information that we really need when people do find manta rays. So a verification image or video is essential, so we can be like, yep, sweet, awesome, you got a manta ray. The position where they found it, date and time, and if they can, ID is awesome. And then additional data, so associated wildlife, that helps us with food web interactions. If they know the depth, the water depth and the time, gender, approximate size, and just describing what people saw as well, then we can pretty much determine what behavior. Being primarily citizen science based is awesome, but it can also be a little bit tricky in terms of quality of data. This photo here is a really good example. It would be like the perfect ID shot, but it's just not quite clear enough, so we can get a partial ID from it. And as I was saying before, like oceanics are super elusive. Sometimes they just pop the cephalic fins out of the water and then pop them back in, and then they're gone again. So it's, you know, there's a lot of variables, like if you've got your phone or a camera on you at that right time, or if you're able to take that footage. So we're just super grateful to get anything really. But it's beautiful when it all kind of comes together and we get a lot of information. All right, speaking of which, so where are we at? Just a side note before I get started. I used lockdown to kind of get back into my GIS, and I just want to do a big shout out to DMAD. They had like this awesome online GIS tutorials that they were doing over lockdown. And I was a little bit rusty, so all these maps, you know, I've created them all myself, and so I just want to say big thanks. Do check them out if you want to get your GIS up to scratch. Anyway, so oceanic mantas. So we've managed to accumulate a heap of sightings spanning from '94 to 2020, which is awesome. We have 104 verified sightings, and that's a total of 145 individuals. So we do have, most of our sightings are of individuals, because they are, you know, kind of a bit loners from time to time. They don't necessarily aggregate as such, but we have had sightings of groups of like 4 or 5, which is really cool, and that's usually associated with feeding. So the graph here, we have number of sightings and then the year. And it's really cool because seasons between 2018 and 20, that's when we've really started getting traction on the project. You know, we're getting a name out there, people are knowing more about mantas, knowing where to send their sightings. And so yeah, this year we've had the most sightings ever sent directly to us, which is awesome. So again, big thank you. Moving over to the map. So we've got all these orange dots. So you can see we have absolutely loads on the upper east coast. This is basically where all, like, majority of the survey effort is. it's also our warmest areas as well. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But we have some really cool sightings. Don't know if you can see my cursor, but we have some on the west. So this was actually done by an aerial survey. And we have one right down here, just where Wellington is. And this is the most southern sighting that we've had confirmed. And then just recently, before lockdown, we had a sighting out east. And so I'm pretty sure we get mantas all the way along these coastlines. It's just a case of if people bump into them or not. And as you can tell by the scale of the map, it's literally just thousands and thousands of kilometers of search area. So well done everybody so far. Continue the great work. All right, so what is this data telling us? So more fancy JS. So now we're showing the months that we're finding our sightings. Another way of representing that data is with this graph here as well. So basically, half of our sightings ever have been in February, and this coincides with the warmest water. Warm water, so we have lots of productivity, lots of food, basically. And we have like a nice scattering of sightings all around. On the shoulder months, so November, April, May, like again, we just want to get that survey effort up, and we're hoping to do hopefully another couple of surveys probably in June, but that will be further north, just to see if we can find any. Alrighty, so what's happening with the water? Here's Australia to the left here. So basically what I want to show with these ones is these sightings coincide, like the peak sightings coincide with the warmest surface, ocean surface temperatures. And New Zealand, we get lots of lovely tropical water that I really enjoy on a personal level, from the East Australian current that turns into the East Auckland current. So that kind of splits with the North Island, and then it comes down mainly the East Coast, but a fair chunk of it comes down the West Coast as well. And then on your right, you can see just what's happening in terms of how that temperature kind of cuts through. Okay, so that's one variable that we're considering. We have seen oceanics in 18-degree water, and the top temperatures that we get in New Zealand in summertime offshore, right in the middle of that current, around between 23 and 24 degrees. So they can handle colder temperatures. So it's all just about if we can find that upwelling that will bring them to the surface. Speaking of which, so here's sightings versus depth. So we've got lots of lovely ocean contours. So we have basically, like what it's showing is that we've got most of our sightings within kind of like the 100 to 200 meter depth contour. So it doesn't mean that they're 100 meters down, it means that they're directly above 100 meters of depth, and then that's where the seabed is. So the 100 meter depth contour is actually where it's the edge of the continental shelf. And so from a productivity perspective, we're getting a lot of mixing. So we're getting that warm water through from the north, mixing with the cool water from the south. It's getting summertime. We're starting to get lots of productivity, lots of food. So it kind of ties in quite nicely with why these animals would be around. But they do come in shallower as well. So you'll see, especially in this little area here, they do get quite shallow. So again, it's very much where that food goes, like once it has come to the surface as well. So shallow depth, around 40, average, as I say, 100, 200, but we have seen them a little bit deeper as well. So recorded around like 350 plus kind of depth. Alrighty, so what are they doing? So we're super lucky that we've seen lots of different behaviours from our sightings. There isn't any kind of significant area where they're doing like one thing. The most prevalent form of behaviour that we're seeing is cruising, and that's literally when they're just kind of chilling at the surface. Feeding is another really popular one. So again, we're seeing all of that feeding behaviour primarily along that 100-metre contour line, but again, kind of a little bit shallower as well. And we have some courtship behaviour, which is really exciting. If we happen upon that, that's normally great encounter material because they don't care that you're there. And unfortunately, we have had one deceased manta as well, which I'll go into detail a little bit later. And one of the key behaviours that we haven't seen yet is cleaning. And there's a little bit of debate around whether oceanics clean, don't clean. I'm pretty confident that they clean. What we do know of oceanic cleaning stations is that they're generally a lot deeper, or they kind of go within that non-user-friendly vibe. So I'm pretty sure we have them, we just haven't found them yet. But that's a really keen focus as well. We're really up for trying to find some cleaning stations to unravel some more mysteries. So the picture on the right is just me at a cleaning station with a manta, just to hopefully put that out there so that the next presentation I do, it'll be with an oceanic manta and not a reef manta. But I'll probably be wearing less, a bit more clothes because the water is warmer here, colder. All right, okay. So we have, on our maps, we have areas, clusters of sightings. And that gives us a little bit of an indication in terms of hotspots. A lot of these hotspots, again, are directly correlated to survey efforts. So, for example, we have one up north, a really awesome group of islands called the Port Knights. And basically we have dive operators running towards there every day of the year, apart from Christmas Day. So there's a lot of water use there. So we're getting a lot of sightings over time. What I'm showing you here is, so Auckland's just down here, and this is part of the Hauraki Gulf. And this is an area that we've had a lot of sightings this season, as well as historically. So in the smaller map, it looks pretty intense. Then you zoom out, and then you see that they kind of scattered a wee bit. So this is the area that I spend most of my time because I live really close to here. So I know it quite well. And just to give you a little bit of context, so this little guy here, as I said, I don't know if my cursor is working, but the picture with the boat, so this island is actually the smallest one on the far left of the Mokuhina Islands, called Groper Island. So you can kind of see it's just like this expansive ocean. There's heaps of ocean in between the islands, just very much like if you spot one, then you're winning. But this is when we zoom in, it's really nice. We can see that they're feeding quite a lot in like the shallower waters. So what's happening, as I mentioned, that nutrient-rich food is coming in, and then this little corner, it kind of acts like a big bowl, and food gets trapped here. So the Hauraki Gulf is a really productive bowl of water. We have resident whales here. That's how much food there is. Sometimes we've had encounters of, especially at Groper as well, where we've had groups of 4 or 5 mantas feeding. This season we had awesome sightings of just big streams of krill. So one of the favorite zooplankton foods that mantas like to eat. And so the main thing really is, if that food gets pushed into the surface waters, then we have the best chance of finding them. Sometimes that food is lower down, and they don't need to come to the surface to breathe or anything. So they can just chill down there and we can drive straight over them. So when it's all working, you can get some amazing encounters. All right, so again, apologies. I have got quite a few videos to show you the different kinds of behavior. But basically cruising, so they're not actively feeding, so they're very chill. And going back to the elusive behavior, I think what we're going to do is probably put a link on the webinar page, and I'll put all of these videos up so you can enjoy them in your own time. But basically, Debbie's kind of doing a good job of showing what I wanted to tell you. So a lot of the time they just hang like just below the surface. We've had accounts from people that have gone past a manta at 11 AM in the morning. It's just chilling, come back at 3 PM and it's in the exact same spot. I haven't had that experience yet, but I'm looking forward to it. A nice chill manta. So when they're traveling, sometimes their fin tips just come out the water, sometimes they don't. The video on the left is literally like the guy's got a boat and it's just right under him, and that's the only way you would have seen him. There's some kind of theories behind this behavior. When there isn't any food at the surface, the general feeling is that there's food at depth, and so mantas are known to dive, and they spend a lot of time down where the food is. So after a while feeding, big fat belly, they want to warm up. So it's quite the behavior that we're seeing is consistent with them just chilling out, getting a bit of sun, warming up in those warmer surface waters. Feeding. So yeah, lots of feeding. So the prey that oceanics are after is also quite mobile. So they have to throw themselves around a fair bit. Like I did have a pretty cool video, which you'll just have to imagine, but the photo at the bottom is so good. Thanks, Chris. You can kind of see the force at which this manta is feeding. And the general way that we've had sightings is of them somersault feeding. So that's when they flip backwards. So lots of splashing. Best case scenario, you find just like a heap of krill, like massive swarm of it right at the surface, and then you've got like heaps of mantas just going hard. We do get quite a few images, like the top one, where literally like the cephalic fins are just coming out, and sometimes they'll do one cheeky barrel roll and then they won't be seen again. But yeah, if there's a lot of food to warrant them feeding for quite a long time, happy days. And also, when they're feeding like this, it's a perfect opportunity to get a really good belly shot. So, but again, like the one at the bottom, just didn't quite get what we needed, but it's an amazing photo. Courtship. So this is another lively behavior that we see. We're really fortunate to see it in New Zealand. Again, the video at the top shows them kind of like really splashing the fins. But basically, so with courtship with oceanics, we don't really know too much about it. And a lot of the learning that we have directly relates to reef mantas. So you can have big courtship chains where heaps of males are following the female, and it's a game of endurance. With oceanics, there aren't generally lots of them in the same place, so they might do mini chains, but all the time we've seen them, we've had just one male following one female. And so when we've had sightings come through of multiple mantas, one of the key questions that we ask is, was one manta directly following the other one, or were they spaced out? So the male just technically just shadows the female hard, and basically he's waiting for her to give birth. So all of these females are fairly pregnant, heavily pregnant, and so as soon as they give birth, then they're able to mate again. So it's not incredibly romantic. The bottom picture by Steve Hathaway here, he had like the most insane interaction with those two guys. As I was saying before, they seem like super chill, and maybe, I don't know, they've been traveling for ages, a bit bored, so if they get a bit of human interaction. But he was literally with them for, I think it was like between 3 and 4 hours. Like he was just in the water and they were just cruising around, like swimming up to him, swimming into him. It's pretty incredible. So again, I'd quite like to experience that at some point. And then we have like a nice drone shot on the right. The males are generally a fair bit smaller than the females, so we have some big mamas. So it just shows him pretty keen just to keep following. And here we go. So here's a nice picture of that female's belly. So you can see she's got a big fat belly. And then I do have a video here of a heavily pregnant female devil ray as well, which we will show you at some point. So it's highly likely that these animals are giving birth and then breeding again in New Zealand waters, because they both look really ready to pop. So again, from a conservation management perspective, we really want to keep learning as much as we can, and if we can suss out areas, breeding areas as well, that'd be real cool. Most of the animals that we have seen though have been larger, so we haven't had any pups. We haven't seen any pups, but you never know, we might see some soon. All right, just keep moving on. Okay, so we're doing a bit of a life cycle thing. So from babies to death, unfortunately. So we're just looking at this as a really amazing opportunity. So in November of last year, I got a call, and basically this lady, she saw this manta ray essentially dying, just right on the beach. So she gave us a call, and as the title shows, this is like a first recorded death. Mantas, devil rays, they're naturally negatively buoyant, so when they do die, they just sink. And the only time that we get the opportunity to look at these animals close up is usually in the unfortunate situation of fish markets. And they can be like cut up because they're so big, like they usually get processed to a certain extent whilst on boats. So yeah, this was far north. We got the call, and then the day later we did the Mammoth Drive. It's a good 6+ hours to get there from where we are. But Clinton's the guy taking the photo. We're both massive shark and ray geeks. So yeah, we just had to go. When we got there, someone had flipped it over, so it was actually on its belly to start with. And then yeah, we just took some time, took some measurements. So this female, she was 4.7 meters across, so fairly significant. And then that also brings me on to the other special thing about her. So she's actually a black morph, or a melanistic manta. I haven't really touched on those yet, but we do have a few of them in New Zealand, which is really exciting. So yeah, she didn't have any internal or external damage. The general consensus is that she just came too close to shore. So the beach that she was found on, you know, it's a fairly decent surf beach. So I think she just got pushed in, unfortunately, and then she couldn't get back out. But yeah, super cool. Really happy to answer some more questions about her afterwards. And so here are some black mantas. We have a pretty famous one, the floss nose, from our time together in the Maldives. She's called Netflix and Krill. She was bit of a hit on social media with that name. So basically, if you get an ID, you get to name your manta. And so Blair was pretty into his Netflix, and so we had Netflix and krill. The one on the left, this is the dorsal image of a melanistic manta. So there are other webinars that go into a lot more detail, but basically it's a pigmentation. So certain populations have more melanism in them than others. There's only and then some populations don't have any at all. But it's really cool, and there is a few studies looking a little bit more kind of globally to see if we can get patterns within colorations or how it varies between populations. But yeah, the one on the left just shows you like how tricky they are to find. Like this guy that's kind of just glassy calm, perfect manta spotting conditions. And they were lucky to see it, just it was right next to them. Just, yeah, completely black on top. Okay, all right. So spotting mantas in the field. So I was going to show you some cool videos of fish boil-ups and workups, but again, I'll just show those or sort of link. But yeah, so this project is not about, we don't unfortunately have like the lovely chalet, like warm, tropical, reefy waters. We've got deep, we've got blue, we've got expanse. So we have a lot of cool territory to cover. And we've got a few toys. And so this is Eddie, you can see him. He's drone extraordinaire. He also runs a project on mantas in Raja Ampat. So it's super cool to have him on board. He's currently doing his PhD at Auckland. So he's just down the road. So basically like our two strategies, we use our data basically, that helps us. If it's a glassy calm day and it's like prime manta spotting territory, then we'll shoot out to the continental shelf. So to like 100, between 100 to like 150, like those depth contours I showed you earlier. Because when the conditions are just right and it's glassy calm, they do just pop up and they're just chilling out. We have had a few dedicated surveys, and within a short amount of time, you just see quite a few if you're looking for them. The other strategy that we have is we look for the food. As I've said before, mantas go where the food is. So if there's food on the surface, then there's a really good chance that we might get some manta action. So this season in particular, in February, we had literally 2 weeks where it was completely glassy calm, perfect. And it's obviously like the warmest month as well, loads of food. We just got so many sightings. Unfortunately, I was trapped on land, so I couldn't get out. But my general plan is to be out like the whole of February next year. So this picture, again, it just goes into, that's Groper Rock. So that sits, and that's like the far eastern side on the Mokihina Islands, and it's right on that shelf. So there's a lot of upwelling, a lot of activity. And basically went out there for a trip, and you can kind of see that the ocean isn't super calm, but this island was giving us awesome protection. So we just got there and it felt manta-y. We got in and we started to just hunt around and check how much food there was. And pretty much as soon as we got in, then krill started flying up from the depths. So I got pretty excited. And then there is some really cool footage that I'm sorry I can't show you, but basically like the whole ocean just erupted. So we had thousands and thousands of fish all coming up from the depths, pushing that krill right to the surface. Groper Island has a resident population of seagulls on there, and so they were going nuts. We had shearwaters, and then it's just turned into like this big feeding frenzy that lasted for a good couple of hours. And so I'm in the water, you can kind of see a couple of blobs here. I think I'm around there somewhere. And then Eddie's on the drone, and we were just really crossing our fingers. Everything was just right, just to start seeing that white belly, like the belly roll. Didn't happen at this time. Right at the end of the period that we were surveying, the skipper did see a big splash right at the end. I think Eddie saw the splash too. But yeah, so then we did go out to try and find it, but there wasn't anything there, and then the whole thing dissipated. But the cool thing about getting out there, if you don't see them, no data is still data. We got a heap of information about how these food webs are working. This one in particular, it was krill, fish, and seabirds. There weren't any cetaceans, so any whales or dolphins. And there weren't any large predatory sharks either, which I was quite pleased about. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how that all functioning. Just super beautiful and lots of energy as well. And the video at the bottom kind of shows the fish like feeding on the krill. And when you're in the water, it's super loud. So you'd be waiting, everything's moving so fast. And then you start hearing the krill, like all these crazy poppings. Then they'd rush over your face, get covered in your hair, and then all the fish would come. So that's just super cool. Alrighties. So just to finish off, what are our next steps? So we're in the process of just trying to get as much funding as possible. The sponsorship, again, just really continuing with the education and outreach side of stuff. So that's talking to stakeholders, talking to general public, talking to communities. Basically, we want to talk to everybody. We want to do lots more dedicated manta surveys in those key hotspots. We're going to be concentrating a lot on the Hauraki Gulf next year, just really honing in and getting to know the area really, really well. Hoping to assist with some tagging projects, so getting on some tagging trips. There's actually a publication as well that's in the mix, and that's going to combine our sightings data with some cool tagging data. And then also, I haven't really mentioned them at all in this, and I'm just a bit, sad that I can't show this video, but we want to get behind our mini mantas as well. We do have loads and loads of spine-tailed devil rays in New Zealand waters over summer. They're generally a lot further out, so kind of, between 300-500 meters in depth, just out in that beautiful blue water. And there's just massive feeding aggregations of them as well. So we really want to learn more about them. There's also been a lot of reports this year about oceanics and spine-tailed devil rays feeding in close proximity together. That would be a great day. So yeah, we really just want to see what they're about as well, and learn as much as possible, really. All right, that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks, Lyds. That was super
interesting.
Right. And I love your GIS skills.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm really stoked on them actually.
Yeah.
I could do a whole presentation on how happy I am about them, but maybe at the end of the month when all the cooler presentations have gone.
Okay, we'll have you back on just for a GIS workshop. For anyone that's watching and wondering about the videos, we are going to upload the recorded version of this webinar with the videos embedded into the recorded version. So if you check back on our website, on our webinar page in a few days, you should be able to watch those videos because they sound pretty cool. So I'd like to see them. All right, let's get started with some questions. We have one from Runak Patra. And they have asked about the dead manta. They're asking about the possible cause of death and saying, are there any natural predators of manta rays? Also, from a toxicological point of view, has there been any post-mortem analysis done to check if any poisoning occurs in manta rays due to pollution of ocean waters? That's a very big question.
Yeah, oh, we might as well start big. Okay, so I did leave out natural predators. I thought my presentation might be a little bit too long, but it turns out it's quite short, not having all the videos. But basically in New Zealand, as I mentioned, we have quite a few big predatory sharks. So we have great whites, we have marcos or makos that we say in the UK. Other key predators are orca and also false killer whales as well. So all of those areas, they all frequent similar areas. But we do find that if there are particularly pods of false killer whales around, then we won't see mantas. So they kind of try and stay out their way. In terms of the dead manta, samples were taken. So Clinton, the guy that was taking the photos, he works for the Department of Conservation, and so those samples were taken and analysed. And I don't have the detail on that yet. I don't know if we have the detail to share. What was the other part of the question?
We had natural predators, what could be the cause of death, and if you know if any poisoning occurs due to pollution of ocean waters. So I think.
So I don't have any detail on. I don't think. I mean, in terms of pollution, New Zealand, like, we're very lucky to kind of be away from everywhere and have like really good water quality, especially in our offshore environment. And in terms of cause of death, as I was saying, there just wasn't any impact. We have had reports of people hitting mantas with boats, like just one or two, where they're literally just, just under that surface, and then you get the impact, but there wasn't any markings. And so yeah, we generally feel that it just came in for whatever reason a little bit too close to shore. Maybe it wasn't feeling very well, or she wasn't feeling very well. But yeah, it's very hard to say. So yeah.
Okay.
More mysteries about oceanics.
Do you see any oceanics with shark bites or orca bites?
We have had, we have had one, but not heaps actually. Not compared to other populations where they're really quite bitey. There's this one individual called Emmy. We've got an ID on her, and she's got like a really nice healed shark bite that's pretty big. So yeah, wow. But not too many, and definitely not any fresh ones that I've seen.
Okay, lucky mantas. Right, we've had questions come through. We've got one from Marta. She's asking if you've ever seen manta rays breaching, and if you can tell us a bit more about why they do this.
Yeah, sure. So if you remember back to my feeding slide, so we had that really cool picture of the manta somersault feeding. That manta actually did breach, and that's the first time we've had somebody record that behaviour. So that's a tricky thing with citizen science. Like, people generally, like, they're quite shocked when they see mantas, and sometimes they don't tell you all the information. But there's a few, in terms of why they do this, there's definitely a few different theories. So I was doing some work with Karen in Mexico. If you haven't seen her webinar, you should. It's really cool. And over there, like, the mantas are just popping out of the water left, right, and center. When I saw them there, it was just, I mean, there was just so much food. And so I kind of feel that it's to do with communication in terms of, hey, there's heaps of food, as well as them being super excited. I mean, if I could do that, then I probably would. And then there's also like the theory of removing parasites. So I kind of feel it's going to be a lot of all of those things combined. But yeah, generally like a big food party, like let's jump out.
Food party sounds fun.
Yeah, I like food parties.
Me too. Okay, we've got a really interesting question here from Kate. She says, thanks for your talk. And she's wondering, in terms of the citizen science aspect of the work, have you engaged with any Kiwi or Kiwi, I guess, and whether they have any knowledge about manta rays. More generally, do you know if mantas feature in Maori or other indigenous Pacific cultures, stories, and science of the ocean? Another big one.
That's an awesome question. Thank you. Yeah, so we do actually, a local iwi that we have around here, called Ngati Manihiri, their actual symbol, they say it's an eagle ray, but it actually looks a lot like a manta ray. And so I am actually hoping to have a fair few discussions with them. They'll have a lot of historic stories. And the offshore islands that I showed in the Hauraki, they actually inhabited Hauturu, so little barrier, and that's prime manta territory as well. So yeah, there's massive learning there. As part of our engagement, we want to do some massive iwi engagement and get local iwi representatives out on the boats and just have a really awesome knowledge share, basically, learning from the past and hopefully showing them what it's like today, like modern ocean times as well. But yeah, massive amounts of time for learning and hopefully having some nice iwi collaboration.
Cool. It's exciting for the future.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be really cool.
We've got one from Valerie. Valerie says, is there a fishery bycatch issue in New Zealand?
Good question. Yes, basically. So unfortunately, spine-tailed devil rays frequent the areas that are heavily fished by the skipjack tuna, or that fishery. So there is a fair bit of crossover there. It's definitely something that I'm really keen to look at in the future. We're quite minimally resourced at this stage, but there are other areas. So DOC and NIWA, so these are big government departments in New Zealand, they're looking at really closely of how to mitigate this bycatch, and also like just kind of getting better recording of what's actually happening as well. But from a personal level, like I'd really like to learn a lot more about it. And so as we were saying just at the end, we do, in the future, we would like to have a lot more of a focus on kind of Mobula rays generally. So, because that's the thing, like the spine-tailed devil rays are even further offshore than oceanics. So it's just like your big fisheries, your game fishers, people that are going out for marlin, that kind of thing. They're seeing like these amazing feeding aggregations, you know, like 3 or 4, sometimes 5 hours steam away from land. So it's you know, it's big country out there. So it's just getting out there is a bit of a struggle. But yeah, it's a key issue that we're very aware of.
Okay, cool, thank you. And I think we'll just have one more question, which we've been asking most people, and that was, do you have a book that you would recommend for people to read about the natural world?
Okay, so I did have like this I was saying to Floss a little bit earlier, this amazing book is all about freediving, mantas, hammerheads, all sorts of cool stuff. I really enjoyed it about 5 years ago and I have no idea what it's called or who wrote it. So instead of that, I've got, it's kind of a funny book. It's called The Wasp That Brainwashed the Caterpillar. And basically it just kind of goes through like just how crazy and random evolution is and how animals have evolved to do and other things to other animals in a way, a means to survive. So it's a very easy book, quite lighthearted, and it has some really cool facts. And there are some kind of oceany stuff in here as well. So
nice.
There you go.
I like it, a little bit different.
Yeah, that's me.
All right, I think we'll wrap up there, Lyds. So thanks so much for coming on and giving such a great talk. It's super interesting. And hopefully people can go and see those videos on the
Yes.
website in the next few days. I'll definitely be checking them out. Okay.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Lyds. Okay, so thanks to everyone for watching. As always, we have a few more webinars coming up next week. Who do we have next week? We have Nuno Rodriguez next Monday, the 18th at 3 p.m. He's going to be talking about conservation photography, and he has some really cool sort of slides showing his amazing photography, but also some of the wider threats to the ocean. And we have Caitlin Zer on Wednesday. She's going to be talking about how she got into marine biology and what lessons she learned from the field. As always, you can learn more about manta rays by following our social media pages. You can visit our website for upcoming webinars, and we would love you to support us. One of the new initiatives we've launched is the emergency fund to help support our affiliate projects in this difficult time. One of these projects is Manta Watch New Zealand. So if you want to give a helping hand, you can visit the webinar page of our website. That's mantatrust.org/webinars, and give us a donation, and that will all go towards helping out the affiliate projects at this time. Okay, thanks guys, thanks Lyds, and see you on Monday hopefully. Bye Lyds.
Bye.